Friends, so welcome back to my channel Mukesh English, and this is your favorite YouTuber Mukesh Soni. Dear friends, in this video I'm going to explain a very significant play by Anton Chekhov, The Cherry Orchard. So in this video I will explain the four acts in detail. The whole play is divided into the four acts: Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4. Then at the end of the play, at the end of this video, I'll summarize the whole video in a very nutshell, so that you will have the two advantage. Act wise you will get the summary, as well as you will get the whole summary, the complete summary of the whole play here. So before that, let's know the brief information about the great author Anton Chekhov. Anton Chekhov was a Russian playwright, short story writer, doctor, and considered as one of the greatest masters of modern literature. He's known for his realistic style and deep psychological insight. He always focused on ordinary life, subtle human emotions. His famous plays include The Seagull, Uncle Vanya, Three Sisters, and The Cherry Orchard. He also wrote many celebrated short stories like The Lady with the Dog. So his works mark the transition to the modern drama, which blends both comedy with tragedy. Then about the play. Cherry Orchard, which was performed in 1904 and published or written in 1903, this is Anton Chekhov's last play. It's also called as comedy with tragic elements. It portrays the decline of an aristocratic Russian family and the rise of a bourgeois class, means to say a middle class. At the heart of the play, there's a cherry orchard, which you cannot forget. That's the main heart of the play, cherry orchard, which symbolizes the past, beauty, memory, and the aristocracy's lifestyle. The characters in this play, they struggle to cope with the financial difficulties and the inevitability of change. So that's a brief information. Then the whole story you'll come to know act wise. Now we have few important characters. Pronunciation might quite difficult. They're all Russian characters. I'll try my best. First we have here Madam Renivskaya or Lyuboi Andreevna Renivskaya. We can also say Madam Lyuboi. She's the owner of the estate and very extravagant, always clings to the past. She has come back to Russia from France. She has spent about 5 years and emotionally she's very fragile, she's broken. Then Leonid Gave, that is Renivskaya, Lyuboi Renivskaya's brother, very polite. Gave, we will try to remember the second name. Gave is Lyuboi Renivskaya's brother. Now Varya, she is Renivskya's adopted daughter. Remember, adopted daughter. Very much worried um, about about Lyuboy's or Renivskya's finances. Anya is younger daughter. Her younger daughter, Lyuboi Renivskya's younger daughter. Then Lopakin is the son of former serf. Serf means to say wealthy businessman, son of a former wealthy businessman, forward-looking, and represents a rising middle class. Danyasha, she's a maid, very flirtatious. Yepi Kodo, very clumsy clerk, and Yepi Kodo is in love with Danyasha, often called the walking calamity. Trofimo, student, and First is the oldest, very elderly servant, about 87 years old, who is in this who was in this house for a long time. So these are the characters. With the help of the story, we'll try to understand these characters. Now, Act 1, the theme of the Act 1 is given here, arrival and nostalgia. So it is cold early morning in May, and the cherry trees are in full bloom outside. but the frost still lingers in the air. Inside the nursery room of the old Renivesky estate, the maid, Danyasha, she's waiting nervously because Lyuboy, Madame Renivesky, is coming after 5 years from Paris, and the maid, Danyasha, she is waiting for her arrival. Lopakhin, a rich merchant, he enters. Long ago, his family were very poor peasants, poor farmers who worked as serfs on the same estate. Serfs means to say nokar, maid, servant. Now he has become very wealthy, but he still remembers the day when Madame Renivaskia, the lady of the house, the owner of the house, had been so kind to him when he was a child, when his father was beating him. So he still remember this Lofakin, who is a rich merchant, from servant to rich merchant. He still remember Madame Reni Vaskia, right? Lyubo Reni Vaskia. So we'll try to call Madame Reni Vaskia. That's easy to remember. So Madame Reni Vaskia, after 5 years, she's coming from Paris. She has been settled in Paris, and finally she's returning to her estate, the estate which is covered by this one orchard. She has come back with a daughter Anya. She has come back with her daughter Anya after living a very sorrowful life because her husband had died. Even her little son is also no more. He had drowned. So she wasted her money in Paris, and she's returning home fills with she's which brings happiness as well as a painful life, because after getting a lot of struggle, she's coming back with her daughter Anya, right? Now, all the servants are waiting for her, for Madame Rani Vaskia, who is the owner of this orchard, who is the owner for this particular estate. So first, so there is a very old servant who must be about 87 years old. First, the very old servant who is very happy to see her. He talks about the past when the cherry orchard was famous and very profitable. So that means to say, let me tell you, the Madame Rani Vaskia's this estate is mostly covered with those cherry orchard trees. The most of the portion of the estate is covered with cherry orchard. So he just recalls that in the past how they were growing and it was so profitable for them. So in those days, they used to sell the dried cherries to Moscow and the other cities. But times have changed, and now the orchard is no longer useful for business. So what happens further? Lofakin gently reminds Madame Ranivaskia that the estate is in debt. So Madame Ranivaskia has come here, and he reminds Madam that, Madam, your estate is in debt. Unless they find money, it will be sold at auction on 22nd August. He says that your estate is in debt, you have to pay the interest and principal. Otherwise, your the whole property, the estate, will be auctioned on 22nd August. So what does he suggest? Lopakin, who was servant, who has become now rich merchant, he suggests to Renevsky, Madame Renevsky, that better to cut down the cherry orchard trees and build the villas there, and you rent out those villas, those cottages, and that's going to bring you that's going to bring the income. But Madame Renevsky and her brother gave, we can say, not gay, we can't say gay. Madam Ranivasky, I'm going to use the last name here, Lyuboy Ranivasky. So Madam Ranivasky and her brother gave hate this idea. They don't like this. They don't welcome this idea of Lopakin. For them, cherry orchard is not just land. It's a childhood, the family, the entire history. Because here, because the reason is here, Madam Ranivasky, she associate the the possession of those cherry orchard with the memory of her husband, or as well as her son, who is also no more. So both brother and sister, Madame Ranievsky and Gayev, they don't like this idea of cutting the orchard trees in the cherry orchard and building the villas over there. They don't like this idea of Lopakhin. Other characters also appear here. Peshchik, who is a poor landowner, and he also comes for asking money because now all the people are coming. Varya, who is see Anya is Madame Renivesky's daughter. There's one more daughter who is an adopted daughter. That's Varya. Varya, she is Madame Renivesky's daughter. She manages the house with great care. So, in the absence of Madame Renivesky, Madame Lyubov Renivesky, Varya, the adopted daughter, she looks after this house, this estate. So, everyone chats about the past and the present, and they all laugh, they all remember. So, but beneath this laughter, there's a sadness because they have to pay the money to save this estate. So here the Act 1 ends here, and what do we learn in this Act 1? We learn here Madame Lyubov Renivesky and her brother Gayev live in the past and they hold on to the memories. Lopakhin, the rich merchant, he lives in the present and he thinks about the practical ways to save the money, to save the estate. The orchard, the cherry orchards, they stand outside beautiful but remain silent, like the symbol of family's fading glory. So that's about Act 1. Now we are moving to the Act 2. So have some patience, old, very longest video. Second act talks about frustration and inaction. So it's a bright summer afternoon. Now the scene is shifting towards outdoor to an open piece of land with famous cherry orchard which is visible from a distance. The sun is shining, everything looks calm and peaceful. Yet beneath this beauty, there's a feeling of worry and change. Why the feeling of worry and change? Because Madame Ranievsky has to save this property. Madame Lyubov Ranievsky, she sits with a brother Gayev and a daughter Anya. The Lafakin, the merchant, and the Charlotte, the governess. Charlotte, the another servant, the governess. They are joined later by Trofimo. So later, Trofimo also comes here, the eternal student. So all of them have joined here. Charlotte Charlotte tries to lighten the mood and she entertains everyone by performing some magic tricks, imitating the voices. People laugh, but when she finishes, she suddenly reveals a sadness. She has no real family and she feels alone in life. Her words are going to add a touch of sorrow to the gathering. So, this conversation soon returns to the orchard and the problem of money. Now, Lopakhin, who is a merchant, very practical person, again he reminds Madame Ranievsky and her brother Gayev that the estate will soon be auctioned if they don't act quickly. He repeats his idea. What's the idea? That cut down the cherry orchard, build the villas or the villas in the cottages, and rent it to some summer visitors, and that's going to bring you some constant income, some steady income. So that's just again a reminder Bilopakin to Madame Libo Renievsky and her brother Gayev, right? So what happens? But Madame Renievsky cannot bear this thought because for her the cherry orchard is not just the trees, it's her childhood, her happiness, her family history. Her brother, Gayev, also refuses to listen seriously, so Madame Ranievsky and Libo both prefer to admire the beauty around them instead of making such hard decisions of cutting the trees. So afterwards, a poor beggar comes, and this beggar asks for help. Though Madame Lyubov Ranievsky herself is in great debt, but she gives a little money to this beggar. So this shows her kind heart, but also her inability to be practical, because it's not a time to give the money to any beggar. She still is suffering from the. She still is almost bankrupt, and still she is giving money to the beggar, right? So that's a very inability to be practical. So afterwards, Trophimo joins here. The Trophimo, he joins here and he speaks, he begins to speak about life, society, future of Russia. So for Trophimo, the cherry orchard is a symbol of the old ways, like slavery, serfdom, suffering. So he tells Madame Renivetsky and Enya, her daughter, her real daughter, that people must leave the past behind and work for better, brighter future. So his words impress Enya, who starts to dream of change and freedom from old traditions. So this is how the trophy Mo impresses Enya here. But Lopukhin becomes frustrated. He sees the truth very clearly. He says that until something is done soon, the cherry orchards will be lost forever. So he urges them. He says that better please do act, but they don't act. So Madame Renivetsky and her brother Kiev, they sink again. They start thinking. They goes back to the flashback about the memories. So they start living in the past, not in the future. So as the days are ending, as the day ends, a strange and the sad sound is heard. The sound of a string breaking in the distance. Something is broken here. No one knows exactly where it came from, but it feels like a warning, a kind of sign that the old world is breaking apart and something new is coming. So the stage grows quiet, sunsets, the orchard trees still stand, beautiful, silent, but we know its fate is growing darker, so still no action. So Act 2 also ends with a lot of conflict. We find here Madame Ranivesky and her brother Gabe. They still live in the past and they are blind to reality. Lopakin, who is very practical man of the present, and Trofimo and Enya, both of them, they dream for the new future. So in the middle of all this stands what? The cherry orchard trees, beautiful, but they also know that they are also moving towards the end. So Act 2 ends here. Now let's move to the Act 3. Denial and delay. The theme of the Act 3 is here, denial and delay. So it's evening now. Inside the big house, this estate, the family and the friends, they're all gathered in the brightly lit drawing room. So it's evening scene. And the very next day, 22nd August, the auction date of this, right? So it's an evening. Everybody is has got gathered here, brightly lit drawing room. There's a music, talking, laughter. So it seems that a party is going on. So, same time, they are anxious as well because today is an important day. The estate and the orchard are being auctioned, and everybody is waiting for the news. They are all waiting for the news that will it be auctioned tomorrow, right? So it's evening, and the party is going on. Madame Ranivesky tries to distract herself. She has put on a very fine dress and she welcomes all the guests with warmth. But her hands tremble. She is nervous about what will happen to her beloved orchard. Gave her brother, Renevsky's brother, he pretends to be confident. He claims he has gone to ask a wealthy relative for money and hopes it will solve everything. But deep inside, he too knows the chances are very small chances, very less chances. The student, Trofimo, talks with Madame Renivesky. He tells her that she must face the truth, let go of her attachment to the orchard. He says that you need to disconnect with this cherry orchards. He speaks of the future, of freedom, of new generation who will build a better world. So Madame Leniveskia, she listens, but her heart is very heavy because for her, the cherry orchards are not just land, it is a whole life filled with the memories of childhood, her lost son, and she cannot imagine life without this estate or without this cherry orchard because she doesn't want to cut. The suggestion is here you cut it. You cut all the trees, build the villas, cottage, rent it, you'll get money and pay all the debts. But she doesn't want to do it. Now, meanwhile, Lopakin, the merchant, who is very restless, he keeps checking his watch. He has gone to the auction. He has come back with the news, and at first he's silent, holding back what he knows, and the tension in the room is keep on increasing. Finally, Lopakin burst out with excitement. What does he say? He has bought the cherry orchard. My God. Who has purchased? The person who suggested to cut the trees and build the cottage in the auction. This rich merchant Lopakin has purchased the cherry orchard real estate. He explains proudly that he bid higher than anyone else and won. For him, this is a moment of victory. He was once a poor farmer boy, peasant boy, whose family worked on the same estate. Now he is the master of it. Look at the change. Once upon a time, he was a servant, and today he's the master, he's the owner. He shouts with joy, unable to control himself, and he says, the orchard is mine, right? But for Madame Luboy Reniewski and her brother Gabe and the rest of the family, this is like a dagger to the heart. The beloved orchard, the childhood, the family heritage, all gone. Madame Raniwski breaks down in tears. Her brother Gabe tries to comfort her, but he is also devastated. The happy music of the party suddenly feels strange and cruel, clashing with the sorrow of the family. The atmosphere turns heavy. Everyone now knows that the orchard, once the pride of the family, will soon be cut down. In the background, the sound of the mysterious string breaking is heard again, soft but clear. It feels like the final signal that the past has truly ended. So, the Act 3, there's a turning point in the play. What's the turning point? Lopakin wins. He becomes the owner of the orchard. Madame Raniwski and her brother Kiev lose everything, broken by grief. The student, Trofimo, keeps speaking of the future, but Raniwski clings to the memories. The orchard, who was once upon a time a symbol of the beauty and the past, and now lost forever. Now we are moving to the last act, loss and change. So it's quite autumn day inside the house. The rooms look empty. Luggage are getting packed, furniture is getting covered. The family, Madame Reniewski's family, is leaving the beloved home for the last time. Cherry Orchard has already been sold to Lopakin, and soon the trees will be cut down. Madame Reniewskia, she walks slowly through the room. She's dressed beautifully, but her face is full of sadness. She touches the furniture and walls, remembering her childhood, her parents, and all the happy days in the estate. For her, living the orchard is like leaving her soul behind. Her brother Gabe also looks broken. He tries to sound brave, saying he has been offered a new job in a bank, but it is clear he is deeply hurt. Both brother and sister are like children who have lost their home forever. Anya, Anya, Madame Raniwski's young daughter, who is very little more hopeful, she tries to comfort her mother, saying that we will start a new life, a new beginning. Anya represents the future full of possibilities. Varia, Varia, She's Madame Ranevsky's adopted daughter who has been looking after this estate in the absence of her mother. She feels anxious and restless. She hoped Lopakhin would propose to her, but he never did. She feels her future is uncertain. She hides disappointment behind anger and busyness, right? So this is going on in the Act 4. So now Lopakhin enters cheerful, full of energy. He urges everyone to hurry up and leave because the workmen are waiting outside to start cutting down the cherry orchard. Because for him this is a business, progress and success. So because it was his brainchild that he will cut the trees and he will construct the villas here. He feels proud that he, who was a poor peasant son, now owns the estate of the nobles. He offers kind words, but his excitement only deepens Madame Ranevsky's Lyubov's sorrow. The servants also say their goodbye. Yasha, the valet, who is selfish, excited to leave with Madame Ranevsky for Paris, while Danyasha, the another servant, is heartbroken because Yasha doesn't truly care for her. Charlotte, the governess, she is confused, very lonely, but not sure where she will go now. Finally, everyone leaves the house one by one. The doors close and silence fills the empty rooms. But then we realize one person has been left behind. First, the 87 years old servant who has been looking after this house is left behind. He has been forgotten by everyone in the hurry. He lies down weakly on a sofa. In his fading voice, he whispers about how life has changed since the old days of serfdom. Now he is useless, abandoned like an old piece of furniture. As the stage grows darker, the distant sound of axes cutting down the cherry orchard echoes across the air. The sound is sharp and final, and it marks the end of an era. So the old man is left behind, and he doesn't like to listen the sound of cutting down the axes, cutting down the cherry orchard trees. First, this old man, he whispers softly, "Life has slipped away, as if I never lived at all." His voice fades, and the curtain falls, and the play closes here. So this is how in the Act 1 is the farewell, where we have seen Madame Ranevsky and her brother Gabe. They lose their home and memories. Enya, her daughter, she's very hopeful for the future. Varia, the adopted daughter, she feels uncertain, rejected. Lopakhin, who is the owner of this estate, he celebrates his rise as the new master. First, the old servant, he's forgotten, left behind, which shows the old world that has truly ended, and the sound of axes, the death of the orchard trees, the death of the past. So this is how I have explained here. Now I'm going to tell you the full summary of the whole four acts very, very briefly within four passages. Have some patience. Now we so far we have seen act-wise explanation. Now let's do the summary, a very brief summary. Recap. So, Madame Ranevskia, a Russian noblewoman, returns from Paris to a family estate which is famous for its beautiful cherry orchard, but the estate is heavily in debt and is going to be auctioned. Lopakhin, a former servant who is now a wealthy businessman, suggests cutting down the orchard and dividing the land into plots for summer cottages. This would save the family, but Madame Ranevskia and her brother Gayev refuse because they are emotionally attached to the orchard and cannot face the change. As the time passes, the family does nothing to solve the problem. Trofimo, Trofimo, the student, speaks about the future and leaving the past behind, but Lyubov, Madame, clings to her memories. Finally, the auction takes place. At the auction, Lopakhin buys the estate himself. For him, it's a victory. Once a poor servant's son, now he's a master. For Lyubov, Madame Ranevskia, and her family, it's heartbreaking. The childhood home and orchard are lost forever. In the end, the family leaves the estate. They are full of sadness, while Lopakhin plans to cut down the orchard. The old servant first is forgotten and left behind in the house, which shows the end of the old world. As the play closes, the sound of axes cutting the cherry orchard is heard, making the fall of the aristocracy and the rise of a new social order in Russia. So in short, we can say that the play Cherry Orchards is about change, the fall of an old aristocracy, the rise of the middle class, and the pain of letting go of the past. So, friends, this is how I have tried my best to explain all the four acts and the complete summary of the famous play, The Cherry Orchards, by the famous Russian writer Anton Chekhov. This is in the syllabus of the third semester BCA General English under Bangalore City University BCU. So, if you like this video, comment it, share the video, and subscribe the channel for more videos, and always have a look into the playlist. In the playlist, you will get all the videos links very shortly. Thank you so much. Any queries, you can reach me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Stay tuned with Mukesh English.